Hello and welcome to Maths with Jacob. This lesson will focus on compound interest. Compound interest involves adding the interest earned at the end of each time period to the initial principal amount. So, as well as earning interest on the initial principal amount, you are also earning interest on your interest. Let us do a simple manual example before we introduce the compound interest formula. So here's our first example, which we're going to do manually, that is year by year. Find the compound interest earned on a principal of $2,000 for 2 years at 5% per annum. So let's look at the first year. So the interest earned will be the $2,000, which is the principal, times the interest rate, which is 5 over 100, because that's 5%. When you cancel all that out, you do your cancelling, that gives you $100 in interest earned for the first year. So for the second year, you now have $2,100 earning you interest, because you have to add the $100 to the initial $2,000. So it's $2,100 times 5%, which is 5 on 100. If you do that calculation, that gives you $105. So the interest earned in your second year is $105. So when you add those two interest amounts up, the total compound interest after 2 years is $205. Now here is the compound interest formula, and it's this here, where A is the total balance after the given time. So A gives you the total amount after the given time period for the given interest rate. P is the initial principal amount, that is whatever you invest initially. R is the interest rate for one time period, and N is the number of time periods. So let's look on the next slide to see how we can use this formula to work out some compound interest and some final balances. So we're using the formula here for this first example. Find the total balance when $4,000 is invested for 3 years at a compound interest rate of 10% per annum. So A equals P, which is $4,000. That's the initial amount. 1 plus R over 100. Now R is 10%, because that's the interest rate, and the time period is 3 years. 10 over 100 is 0.1, so that's basically 1 plus 0.1 all cubed. So that's 4,000 times 1.1 all cubed. When you cube 1.1, you get that amount. Multiply by 4,000, and that's the final amount that you have after 3 years. So when you invest $4,000 for 3 years at 10% per annum, this is the final amount that you get. Example 2. Find the total balance when $2,000 is invested for 4 years at a compound interest rate of 5% per annum. What was the total amount of interest earned? Calculate both answers to the nearest cent. So here we're going to find the total amount first. Okay, so it was the final amount. Okay. So that's the total balance at the end. $2,000 is the principal, 5% is the interest rate, so it's 5 over 100, and the time period is 4 years. So that's 2,000 by 1.05 to the power of 4. If you put all that into the calculator, that gives you $2,431.01. Remember, the answer is to the nearest cent. So that is the total balance. So the compound interest earned was $431.01. So this video has given us a brief introduction to the idea of compound interest, and we've done a simple example where you can do it manually, and we've also seen how you can use the compound interest formula, which is a very efficient way of arriving at the answer that you want. So if you have 3 or 4 years, that is certainly the most efficient way of doing it, because if you do it manually, it might take quite a deal of time, but The formula is just so convenient.